Okay, we're live. Hi, good morning. This is our weekly source code meeting. I think, Dennis, you have the first.
Yes, thank you. The first one is not very exciting. It's it's very confusing situation we have now. We have separate channel for backend and some general source code Slack channel, which are two separate things, which doesn't make sense to me. I just would like to propose to merge those two. I will raise this with the engineering managers, but I think it's a bit odd to have separate. Oh yes, we have Andre here, and I think it would make sense to merge those into one. It's just an idea, because like monitoring one channel is twice as easy as monitoring two channels. So it's just an idea. That's it.
I like your mathematical approach.
Yeah, it's been tough. I had to ask ChatGPT for exact equation. Yeah.
Oh, that is from ChatGPT. Then we can't trust the math.
We have to double check it, apparently.
So I think the question is to Andre and Sean, who's not here.
Yeah.
What two channels are you talking about, Dennis?
The front end and back end channel.
Yeah. G underscore source underscore code and G underscore source underscore code underscore BE.
Oh, then if that sense, we still have a third, which is our source code review.
Yeah, that will be my next question.
Yeah. So in my response to that is, like, sometimes there's a lot of topics that are more like team maintenance discussions that require a little bit more like focused discussions on the people that are targeted in that thing. So for example, if we're talking about stuff that relate to our team specifically, in our case that we have two teams, so I'm talking to my people, I will flood the source code channel. So that's why we have separate channels historically. And I think the same thing happens with the backend. So I think that's the reason why we have those three channels, like one for products and I guess the group, one for the group, and then one for each report of the engineering manager specifically. So yeah, that's how we've always had it. But I'm just wondering.
Probably it's just my problem where I monitor all of the channels to know what's going on in the group, but it's it's a bit confusing. Anyway, we can even take it async, I think, because it's
sure,
it's not the most exciting topic.
Start a thread on the Slack channel, on the source code main one, and then we'll go from there. Thanks.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and let's ask the individual developers what they think.
And ChatGPT
having one channel. ChatGPT has already made up its mind, right? If I understand you well, Dennis.
Yeah. So I have the next question, the next point, and that one is much more exciting. So we had a chat with Torsten earlier this week about some interesting ideas to implement in the group, and in particular three ideas were interesting to discuss and would involve a broader group. So Michael and Anastasia or Jay, we'll see how it goes, how soon we can get to those things. So I'll just go one by one into those things. So the first one is in context editing files in repository. There is an epic here, the old one from old days when Kai was product manager of Editor Group. So it's been really long ago. And then there is an interesting solution validation created by Michael, again, back in the days when he was in the editor. He started evaluating this. I'm not sure what's the state of that, but this is something to discuss. And then there is the very crude POC. I've spent some time yesterday throwing the POC for this effort, and I can demonstrate how it looks like at the moment. It doesn't really do all, but we can briefly take a look at the thing. So share. You apparently see my screen now, right? It throws some errors which are not supposed to be here. So in the previously there was a POC with the video with the video walkthrough for snippets, and I showed that to Torsten on Monday. But oh right, okay, that's the time to get the server error. Let me just restart this thing. Technically, the idea is there are two different things. The second one we'll talk about a bit later, so right after this one. But the first one is in context editing of the blob files, and then there is inline editing. What's the difference? The in context allows users to seamlessly switch between viewing a blob to editing a blob. This is in context. Inline is when a user wants to edit a particular line in the editor, and they click a special button in the viewer's gutter, which I will demonstrate once my JDK is back and healthy. And then, all right, okay. Seems like it's not going to happen now. We'll have to get to the POC. Apparently, I didn't record the video, but I will record it today. As I said, I spent some time yesterday building this and didn't have enough time to tackle this. So technically, this is, as I said, this is about in context editing. We actually can check the video of the for the snippets, and it's going to be exactly the same for the blobs, except for one simple thing. Do you see my screen now, the video? No. Okay, let me just
We see
right, let me
web page from the 80s.
Yes. Now
we see
yes. So this is this is the POC that it has been that was built really long time ago for snippets, but the idea is the same. So here we begin with viewing the snippets, and then we add this edit button for every individual blob in the snippets, simply because we didn't have this button. But for the blobs in the repository, it will be that blue button saying edit. So how it's working, we click. We are right there without reloading the page. And once we detect that the changes have been made to the content, we switch the button from edit to save changes. And then once user clicks it, the save button, the content is updated. This is the same process I intend for the blobs. However, the save functionality needs to be thought through, because we cannot simply save the blob in the repository. We have to go through the commit workflow there. So one of the ideas is just to put the commit workflow into an overlay. So when a user clicks save changes, we show the commit overlay. User types in the commit message, selects the branch, marks whether it has to be a new merge request, and confirms the saving changes. This is the in-context editing. Do we have questions about in-context editing, ADM? Because this one will have will need a lot of input from Michael in particular, I think. I would like yes. I'll
Yes, I'm
answer the
wondering-
questions. Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to note that since we don't have enough that much time, let's make it brief, and I will be happy to answer any questions in async manner if there will be any afterwards. The POC is linked. Now let's get to the questions on this one.
Yeah, so because you asked specifically for the questions to context editing, my impression that your definition of what it is very technical and doesn't put in the center the user problem. I don't exactly know the user problem, but I can make a guess that there are certain things. Let's say I've discovered that I want to change something, then I want to change that, and with at least amount of time and least amount of clicks to make that happen. I want to probably make this via a commit. It should still be Git after all. And I want to understand, where I do these things. And probably if the file is large and I discover, that I want to change something versus the bottom, then I don't want to, and this is kind of a more detailed explanation of the first one, which is about speed performance, workflow performance. I don't want to have to scroll up, go to edit, and then scroll down again to the line that I've just found. So if we were to derive those customer needs first, maybe, interviews, user interviews.
I'm not.
Maybe.
I'm not really sure.
Could...
I follow this. So you say that if as a user I check the file and I want to edit something,
my primary goal is to basically I want it and I want it done, right? So I want.
Right.
I don't want to have to do others. So of course there can always be many steps to do it. But I want as least steps and as fast and as little, and to use your word, as little as possible context switching. Context switching in that case would be I leave the line that I want to change, I go up, I select edit, and I go down again. That's context switching.
I got it.
So if we define it more around that user problem, then maybe we better understand what we should do.
So we can base it on user needs, of course. However, keep in mind that this proposal already improves the situation, because at the moment the context switch is not only losing the context of the line, but also getting the whole page reloaded. So this is much more dramatic context switch we have now. This proposal eliminates one step there, so you remain on the same page. You instantly switch to the editing interface. You have the file in front of your eyes. Yes, the lines might have scrolled, but you are still on the same page. You are still in the context. You do not break the context. You see something that has to be changed, you click edit, and you are editing right away. You do not wait for the page to reload. So I think the in context. Okay, we can think about the name for in context, but I suppose the next point, the inline editing, will solve your request. As discussed, I didn't see any user request about the inline editing except from you, but that's already that doesn't mean that there is no such request, right? This just means that we don't have issues from the customers for that. So technically, the next point that we will be talking about is actually the inline editing. And
right. I'm just going to jump in here, Dennis. The two following points I have no issues with. I think this in context editing one, it's like I'm confused whether it's our responsibility in source code to look at it or whether it's the editor's group. I don't know if that separation is clear enough, because to me, source code is like the source code editor is a component. I don't know if the whole page. So for me personally, I don't know. I'm not clear on which group that's that lies on, because the epic that you link to for the in context page still refers to the editor group.
That's just a matter of switching the labels, right? Because
yeah.
the
But
repository
like, I'm always confused on the editors. Like
the problem is that this is that process of reorganization. So I don't think we went through relabeling all the source editor related initiatives from the editor group to relabel them to source code. That's what has to be done, I guess.
So Michael, one thing to be aware is that the source editor is now maintained by us.
Yep.
Okay. So that would be a source code project essentially.
Yeah.
Which now makes it simpler actually than it was before.
Yeah, because before it was like the one part was the single file page editor was like the editors group, but the component itself was this group. So okay. Cool.
Exactly. Now everything's technically everything we talk about today, it doesn't involve any cross-group collaboration. It's all under our control. So both repository, editor, source editor, these things are under our control, and we can actually do whatever we want with those. So
so the next point I have is around
before you go forward, I was trying to find a time to squeeze in. So when we started to do the refactoring of the blob of the refactoring of the repository app to have the blob incorporated into that, the idea was to streamline all of the user journey throughout the repository and make it as seamless as possible. This is the end bit, which is like now we have the blob incorporated to that, so you can navigate between the blob and the file tree much easier, much smoother. But when the user edits, you still have to reload the thing. This is like the final step in the user journey that wants to edit a file to make that seamless and smooth. Essentially a performance improvement and experience enabler, I guess. That's just wanted to add that context.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So at the moment, I feel that the read and the viewing view and the edit view look very different. There's ideas that I propose a few in the epic around improving the just the viewing of it, but maybe I can incorporate thinking about how this may swap or switch into edit view so that you don't need to reload stuff, or we always question whether that well of information about the last commit is actually useful on the page, or maybe there's a different place that we could add it. So I think the snippet example gives me a good idea of what's possible, but I think if I translate that straight into like the blob view, it doesn't. I can't see it yet, but I think that's the part where we can refine.
I'm so sorry I cannot demonstrate the POC live now. I'm trying to reanimate my GDK while we are talking, as I'm known in this group for doing things while on the call. But technically, I was worrying about this being a bit too harsh, but it turned out to be really smooth, to be honest. The only difference that even the difference in the syntax highlighting between highlight.js and source editor were absolutely negligible. The only difference that was a bit puzzling was surprisingly the font size difference between the viewer and the editor. So the editor works with 12 pixels font size and viewer with 13 pixel size. So that's the only disturbing thing. Otherwise, the context is very smooth. Like the transition happens. You click the blue button, edit. It turns into cancel button right away. So we swap the viewer with editor. The toolbar, the bar remains the same. The edit bar, the edit tool button swaps into the cancel, so that you could cancel editing. And then if you make the changes, this cancel button swaps into the save changes. So the transition is pretty smooth. But yeah, I cannot demonstrate this. I will reanimate my GDK. Yes, that's the point. I will since I was finishing this 2:30 a.m. and it was like videos were very low on my priority list at that moment. So I will do it today, and yeah, for all three ideas we have, and we are still on the idea number 1, but we have only 8 minutes left. So
Let's move on.
yes, let's move on. So the inline editing. This is the idea we talked about with Torsten. The idea is so, and this is exactly the scenario that we discussed recently. So user looks at the file in the blob viewer and then finds something that has to be changed. So what happens is they hover over that line, and the same way we show the line link icon and blame icon in the gutter of the viewer, the next to the blame, there will be the pencil icon, meaning edit. User clicks that edit link, and now the ideal situation, sort of the paramount of this effort, to me would be that this particular line becomes editable. We do not swap the whole viewer with the editor, but this particular line becomes editable to the user. But this is pretty big effort. Like, it sounds simple, but it's a big effort because we are
Why would you want to limit it just to that line?
You can write more lines, but that's exactly the context. How else would you do this? Like, how do you envision?
I would just make I would just, you know, and I'm just speculating now because this is how I thought about it. You know, just make everything editable, but make nothing move, right? So
right,
basically, going from read only to write.
Right. Considering that the blob viewer doesn't have height limitation and the source editor does have, we have to make sure, we have to know what part of the code you are in. We can introduce complex logic in order to detect where exactly in the file you are, like scrolled. So because blob view can stretch like 2-3 screens, right? While source editor is only on the top screen because it's limited in height. So what will happen is your screen will jump no matter what. I don't see this technically possible to seamlessly without visual. Yes, there is a technical
Is there a technical reason why it can only be this, or is it a design reason because we still need the message and
there is a technical reason for that. First is the editor. When editor is defined, it has to have the parent of the editor has to have the defined height so that the editor internals would know how many lines to render. The way a source editor works, in order to be performant, instead of creating all of the lines, like 2,000-3,000 lines, it creates lines only for the visible part of the code. And then when user scrolls, editor reuses those already rendered lines to update them with the new content when user scrolls. Otherwise, the performance of the editor would be horrible and it would be unusable. The reason is
why is the performance difference? Why is the performance of an editor different than a viewer?
Because they are completely different technologies, right? Viewer is just rendering the HTML lines. Editor is about not only rendering the lines, but also attaching a lot of JavaScript functionality to all of those lines. So because you have to have a lot of listeners to react to user reaction in the editor. When you view the blob, we don't need to do this because viewer is just viewer. So there is the technical reason why in particular why the editor has to be limited in height. We can adjust the height. We can say the height is different. At the moment, it's 500 pixels, but we can adjust that to any number we want. We just have to know that we cannot make it unlimited height, unfortunately.
Okay.
So again, getting back to your question, like just seamlessly swapping. So you're viewing at let's say do I have yes. So let me just share my screen. I still don't have my JDK back, but we can, let me just share it now. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, we're running out of time,
okay.
Dennis. So
Yeah. I know. I will probably leave the third point for the next meeting then. But in this case, let's go to some JavaScript file. When we talk about the file like this, technically we can, like 44 lines, we will be able to more or less seamlessly swap the things and make the whole editor editable instead of just one line. If you click, there will be the pencil icon here, for example, next to the blind. But if we talk about the MVC, this is what we discussed as well. As the MVC, like we can discuss the end goal a bit later, but the MVC for this would be, we show the pencil icon, we click it, and what happens is that we get to the editor, we reload the page, we load the editor, but with this line, so technically, when you click the pencil icon, it will generate URL like this. Oh, come on. Okay, right. I should. Oh man. So technically, you will have to. Let's do it here. I'm logged in here. It will generate the URL for the editor with the particular line highlighted. Let's go to Jest Resolver. So let's say we want to edit the line 6. So the link will be like this. And then we get to the editor with this line highlighted right away. And then the user has the context. This is the MVC. This is what we can do right now. Show the icon, user clicks, and then gets to page gets reloaded, and user gets to this line. But if we implement that in context editing from the first part, this means that we will be able actually to get closer to the idea that Torsten had. So user clicks the clicks the pencil icon, and instead of reloading the page, we swap the viewer with the editor, with that line placed straight in the middle of the screen. And that's what will create this in context and inline consolidation, so to speak. And that would bring as close solution to what Torsten described as possible. We will stay on the same page, we will not reload the page, and we will get to the exact context of the line that has been clicked. This is sort of the paramount of this whole effort.
So, Dennis, is there an issue for this proposal?
No.
So we can discuss the synchronicity.
I think there was a. I think there was a in Michael.
There
was a bigger issue about a
for the
lot of things.
For the in
that issue, we
no
for general redesign of stuff, and there was at least a comment from myself and maybe also a discussion. I don't know where we had that. Michael, do you remember where I made that proposal and which comment? But I can create an issue.
Let's try to find it after the call, at least, and link it here. Jen, so can all participate there.
I will get the links. I will record the videos for these things, and we'll take it asynchronously. It's just I wanted
one
to
last sentence
this.
about the topic. I think if we do this first before the in-context editing, we can use it to collect some data and, for instance, how much people use the edit button at the top versus this no pencil, and how much that depends on, for instance, how low on the page they are. I think that might give us some insights on how future things would have to be implemented.
As I said, we can implement that getting to the line with the page reload very, very fast. It's nearly 1 max 2 weight of effort. This can be done now. Then we can start gathering information, and in the background we will be working on the in context editing, because the in context would make this inline editing much better experience if we combine those.
Okay, we're out of time. We have another meeting, at least Jay, Anastasia, and I. Andre, do you want to
just read
have the last sentence about the AI stuff?
The last two things, just an announcement of a new working group, and we're discussing a hackathon. So please, if you have any thoughts or questions, raise it up in Slack and we can discuss it synchronously. Sounds good?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, have a good day, and see some of you on the other side.